You always leave one thing a little messed up on purpose because that's what the client will zero in on, and then they won't nitpick a bunch of stuff that you think
and
is
then it
great.
becomes final.
Yes.
For example, the type of camera they use is literally a very expensive webcam. People get hired for their hard skills, and they get fired for their soft skills.
Vertical video is an abomination in most cases.
Yes.
It's unacceptable. All right, we're back. Philippe, how are you doing?
Doing really well. It's very good to be back here, second episode.
Yeah, well, last episode you were a guest, and you are now officially get a grip. You've escalated in the ranks.
That's a very quick promotion. I'm very impressed, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. So,
Well, the standard's a little bit low then. No, I'm kidding. Of course, the standards are super high. I mean, from the comments that I've read about the first episode is just terrific. 'Cause it has been a little bit overwhelming how positive all comments have been.
I have not heard a single negative comment or a thumbs down yet. I was kind of surprised because this show was designed to speak to video professionals, but we had some people outside of that arena who actually stuck around for the full, what was an hour and 20 minutes, and we're getting information from that. So that was really nice to hear, and it's helping to shape future episodes, because if people from outside of the video production background are getting pulled in and staying in, I don't want to zero in on just video where they can't latch on to anything that they can learn from.
Yeah, there was something really interesting. I had a couple of friends that are not from the video business, but they are freelancers or they own their own business. And they were saying, oh, it's very interesting to hear about how you're dealing with clients. When you were talking about contracts, a friend of mine actually that works with production reached out to me and say, hey, would it be okay if you share your contract with me? And I said, yeah, no problem. Actually, that's the whole point of this whole thing, is to really help out each other and to hear the struggles from other people, what they're going through. And maybe while you're not alone, what can we do to improve this and that, or try to avoid some situations? And yeah, I got so many nice comments about it, about people that are not from the business. I'm like, wow, you really went and heard all of that? You watched all of that? And they're like, yeah, in the beginning, I wasn't sure I was going to watch, but then the more you guys were talking, it was so engaging, and they kept watching. I was like, okay, cool.
Somebody I met at the Final Cut Pro 10 Creative Summit last year, Bill Harvat, watched our episode, and then he was messaging me asking to see the contract that I came up with, which, as we discussed in episode 1, was the same one that you and Sam and I kind of have been working with and tweaking, so that was interesting as well. So hopefully this episode is as engaging. We've got a couple different topics, and we've got a different guest today. I don't know if that guest will, as quickly as you, escalate, because I don't know if we need 4, 5, 6, 10 hosts. But let's just start off right away. I'd like to introduce Thomas Smet. How are you doing, Thomas?
Good. How are you guys?
I'm pretty good.
Awesome.
Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about your background and what you're doing now as well, in 3 seconds or less.
3 seconds or less? All right, here we go. Okay, it's going to be a little bit longer, but
All right.
I started out similar to a lot of other people. You know, they were inspired when they were younger, watching movies and a lot of other things. I took a little bit different path. I was more into visual effects than I was filmmaking per se. And I took the expensive path in life, where I actually went to film school to study 3D animation and visual effects. And, you know, and during college, you know, I got into video production because it was a way to kind of pay for college and survive while I was living in San Francisco. And I just kind of stuck with it because it was the field that you could actually do and make money that was more relatable to what I was actually going to school for versus working somewhere else, doing some random thing. So I dove headfirst into video production, and you know, that was sort of a venue to use some of the skills I learned in you know, studying visual effects in animation. So I was able to apply some of that stuff to it. But along the way, I worked in a lot of other things like corporate video production, event video production, all sorts of different things. Pretty much anything you can think of, I did.
Well, that's where you and I met. So you were at a company.
Yeah,
You were at a company
that's
that
right.
hired me as an editor, and that's where we met. And then you left a little while before I did. So,
Yeah.
what have you been doing since leaving that company?
Well, my career keeps kind of taking a shift because I studied graphic design and a lot of other things in college, and I always had an interest in software development. I kind of became a multimedia developer where I could sort of marry everything together, the video stuff, the animation, the graphic design, and sort of basic interactivity. And lately my career's been shifting more and more towards software development, and now I'm actually a UX designer that designs mobile applications for customers, and I'm also developing some of my own mobile applications. And a huge passion of mine has always been develop mobile apps for the video and film community. So that's kind of a secret project I'm working on right now. So.
We're not gonna let anyone know. It's okay. We're gonna.
No.
Not in this episode. We've got plans.
Gabe knows all about it, but it's top secret right now.
Thomas will be on the show again for sure. Go on, Philippe.
So no, I have a question for Thomas. So you started studying film, and your career kept on going, like, still on the creative side, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
being a developer is still a very creative thing. Your stuff coming out of the thin air. But where does film production or production in general or video in general ties back into your life today? Or does it?
My current job, I don't do as much video as I used to, but the job I had previously, I worked in the marketing department where I did a wide range of things, and a lot of that included, creating interactive, like touchscreen kiosks for trade shows and things like that. So I was doing the video production side of it, doing the animation, but also doing the interactivity to kind of bring it all together and make it all kind of alive. So customers could actually experiment with it and kind of play around with it, and and not just have like a linear video where you sit down and you watch it from beginning to end, where it's more of an interactive experience. So that's what I've been doing a lot when I worked at the same company as Gabe. That's what I was doing a large portion of, and my previous job was that as well. And because I kept developing those software development skills, I keep kind of getting pushed more towards that field in my career. But I still have a huge passion for video, and we do a lot of sort of like training videos at the company I work for. So I use a lot of the video production skills to kind of do training for some of the other employees, and kind of to promote what we do to our customers and so on.
Well, at the same time, Thomas and I text daily about gear and about shooting, and I mean that he remains endlessly interested in video still, which is good for me because I don't know, except for Star Wars, I don't know what else we talk about. I mean, you're a father now. I don't have kids, so I can't really relate to that. But we can talk about video, and we do endlessly. And that kind of segs right into our first topic for today, which is, do you need the most expensive gear to produce high quality work?
Great topic.
What do you guys think about that? What's your one word answer to that? Yes or no?
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Elaborate.
It kind of depends, and this is an area where I'm torn on all the time, because obviously we all love quality. We want the best that we can get, but there's a significant difference between grabbing an iPhone and shooting a project versus grabbing like a GH5, a Panasonic GH5, and shooting a project in 10-bit 422 color space. I mean, there's kind of diminishing returns. There's a certain level where you're at where, okay, you can't really say that's good enough because it's not. But you get to a certain level where, yeah, it probably is good enough. Sure, the GH5 isn't shooting RAW. It's not shooting ProRes, directly like some other formats. But there have been dozens and dozens of tests out there that show the format holds up really well compared to ProRes. And so you really have diminishing returns at that point. It's like, okay, could you get a tiny bit better? Sure, but now you're talking maybe 0.5% better versus 10% better if you're using something like an iPhone or an older DSLR that only shoots HD.
What are you recording this with right now?
GH4. I know, I'm old school.
Well, not that old. Philippe and I are both using GH5s.
And a lot of people online are like, oh, the GH4 sucks, the color's horrible, it's crap, and I always feel guilty about that, so it's like, well, maybe I should get a GH5, but then I run into a video that someone did with the GH4, and it's like, holy shit, that looks amazing, and then I myself will shoot some stuff that looks amazing. I'm like, what the heck are people talking about, horrible color? I've always loved the Panasonic color, and I'm sure the GH5 is an improvement, but the GH4 is still an amazing camera. And the issue with gear is people go gaga over a new camera, and they'll use it for 6 months, and it's the best thing ever. And they're like, you're crap if you're not using the GH4. And then as soon as the GH5 is announced, the GH4 is shit. You can't use that camera anymore. It's crap. What happened from one day to the next day where you suddenly have the most amazing camera in the world to it's garbage?
I think,
and it's all a mindset, really. And if you felt like you were using stunning quality at that point, that's still true. I mean, sure, there might be something a tiny bit better, but these are realistically incremental upgrades. They're not a life-changing upgrade. And viewers, they don't see the same stuff we do. They're not geeks like we are. They don't see all this stuff.
yes, I've said this for years, but I've never once been approached by a client who said to me, I'd really like to see more information in the shadows. Or your highlights are clipping.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
Just earlier I was saying I could probably deliver like 540 interlaced, and they wouldn't know the difference between what I shoot now, which is 100% of the time I'm at least shooting in 4K, if not delivering 4K. Mm-hmm. Most people, they don't know the difference. They might walk into a Best Buy and be tricked into buying a 4K TV, not knowing the difference. It just sounds better. But they're just not that visually literate, I suppose. But over time, viewers are getting more and more visually literate. Philippe, what are your kind of initial thoughts on this?
Well, initially, I have like 100 thoughts right now. I was just listening to Thomas, and I will second him on the part that do you need the best camera? No, but there is a very big difference between best camera and like any camera. Yeah, so then when you ask, can you do it with just any camera, an iPhone or crappy little whatever that you bought for $100? Probably not, depending on what you want to achieve, right? On the other hand, once you get to a certain level, a level of a GH4, GH5, this A7 series, and etc., about $2,000. Whatever it is that you buy after $2,000, the difference is so minimal.
That's exactly
that's
what Thomas was saying.
And you only see when you put it side by side.
Yeah.
If you just make your movie or make your piece with that camera and you do a good job, it will just look great. And the other thing that Thomas was saying, and I hope we're going to talk about this at some point, is how well the codec from the GH5 holds against ProRes and RAW. We don't have RAW with the GH5, sure, but just yesterday, I was shooting Red Helium 8K, Red RAW at 5:1 compression against the Evo 1 in ProRes RAW and the GH5. And to be honest, when you put them side by side, when you get down to business and real life stuff, there is not a lot of difference between $80,000 in a body, $2,000 in a body, and $7,000 in a body.
Trust me, if you want to talk about
Absolutely.
if you want to talk about codecs, Thomas is the correct guest for that discussion.
Yeah. Panasonic is doing something really right there with their codecs. It might not play back smoothly anywhere at the moment. And I hope that they are working with other vendors to create a codec that's actually going to give us a nice playback, because it's not just on Adobe or not just on Apple to create a decoder for that codec. If Panasonic developed, and correct me if I'm wrong, if Panasonic developed the encoding there, they should be able to help doing the decoding of the same video, right?
Correct.
But yeah, in the end of the day, I'm so happy with the GH5 that I have after having tested against the Evo 1 and the Red Helium 8K. And the other thing is that Thomas said was, oh, you have the GH5 now and the GH6 comes out and suddenly the GH5 is crap. A lot of people say, oh, Apple updated Final Cut 7 to Final Cut 10. Now, Final Cut 7 is obsolete. No, it's not. Whatever Final Cut 7 was set out to do, it still does. Mm-hmm. It will keep on doing it. That's a fact. If your camera was set, the GH5 was set to record UHD, 4K DCI, in 400 megabits, etc., and it was set to do this image that you're getting right now, once the new one comes out, it will still deliver that image. It suddenly didn't get worse. Maybe you have better quality in the next one, but this one didn't get worse.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely.
Well, and there's a common thread here because so you and I are both shooting with GH5s. Thomas has the GH4. They're very close to the same camera, close enough. And a lot of people, they go after this quote unquote cinematic image, and they're looking only at camera specs. They're only looking at dynamic range and how many stops it can record. All three of us have lit our setups today. We use lighting. Philippe, I know you're in the middle of a move right now, so I'm only looking at the Skype call. I won't see the final beautiful image until you send those files to me so I can edit. But normally your shots look gorgeous. They look amazing. So you're totally forgiven if this isn't as immaculate as normal, but you still took the time in the middle of a move to set up lights. Thomas, I know, set up lights. I've obviously got lights set up. An iPhone with
it's important.
An iPhone with really good lighting is going to look better, in my opinion, than a GH5 with no lighting.
Absolutely.
Because that is cinema. I mean, as far as, correct me if I'm wrong, but the most famous book on cinematography is called Painting with Light, is it not? It's all about lighting and sculpting and shaping your scene.
Yep, that's what cinematography is.
I don't.
Can I comment one thing on dynamic range? Mm-hmm. Real quick. Film stocks, how much dynamic range did they have? I'm guessing, look, I didn't go to film school, but if I watch a movie shot on film, and it's outside in the bright sunlight, I'm pretty sure their highlights are clipping.
Yes.
Because they're exposing for the face.
Yeah. You know, and the other thing about a lot of Hollywood productions is they use other tools like bounce cards and reflectors. So if they are shooting in a situation where you've got bright sky in one area and then you've got some characters or actors underneath a tree in the shadows, they will bounce that light back into it. Because even if you have a huge amount of dynamic range, 90% of consumers do not have monitors that can see that. So you're really killing that, and you're creating such a wide spectrum that it's really hard for anybody outside of the editor and the colorist in that studio to actually see any of those advantages. Mm-hmm. And Hollywood has used reflectors and bounce cards and lights in those situations for years. Or if they're inside of a building, they would actually fake the outside of the window. You know, like you have fake light out there and you have a fake, canvas back there for the sky and so on. You know, because they wanted to have a more even spread and not just say, well, we need this extra range, so let's just grab a camera with 16 stops and boom, there you go. Because once you view it on a 10 or 8 stop monitor, it's garbage.
Yes.
So not only in terms of viewing is it better to create a more balanced shot, but artistically it's better to have a more balanced shot as well.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
And I don't think one can approach proper cinema the same way they would a run and gun situation. I'm not saying at all. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying at all because we've all done run and gun. I'm not saying you can't capture amazing, beautiful images with run and gun with available light. Weddings, for example, most of the time, the weddings we're getting budgets for, they'd be pissed if we show up with a bunch of lights to set up and we're posing people.
Yeah, and it's physically impossible to do it too.
Well, yes, exactly. But cinema is all about controlling every aspect of the image. Mm-hmm. It's all fake. It's all trickery. Like you said, backgrounds can be faked. I mean, even now in my studio, I've got a big flag blocking my key light so that it doesn't spill on my wall, so that my blue light can make the wall more blue. And this is I'm not making a movie here. I just want my one camera setup to look pretty good. But all it is a flag, but I'm manipulating light in here. I mean, I've got a rim light on me. It's not motivated by any source because there are no windows in my studio. And in this type of situation, it's all pretend, it's all make-believe anyway. I don't need to. Last episode, I had a computer up there so I could pretend that was the source. I don't care. I just wanted some separation. But it's all manipulation. Mm-hmm. It's all fake. So
On the other hand, I love natural light.
yes, but even in film,
The
they
running
shape,
gun, you get that. Yeah.
they harness that light and they shape it. Exactly. You know, as
Yeah.
Thomas was saying, if you're going to film an interview outside in the bright sunlight, they'll have a huge 4-foot or larger silk above them to filter
Yes.
that light and to shape that light. They're not just, you know, plunking down a camera and expecting it to be magic.
And in big films, they have also very big soft boxes, like as big as a football field sometimes, that you
Absolutely.
put on top of stuff, right?
Yeah. You know, and sure, it's more effort, but nobody ever said filmmaking was supposed to be easy.
Oh yeah, totally not.
I know there's a lot of people that want it to be easy. They just want to grab a camera, hit their little red button, and boom, there they go. They're a filmmaker. But it's a little bit more effort than that. It's an art. It's a fine art, and you have to put in the effort.
Yes.
It's like if you're a painter or a sculptor, you put in the effort to learn the craft. You learn all the details of, okay, if I use this brush, I get this sort of a texture when I'm on the canvas sort of situation. Filmmaking's the same thing, you know, and we don't have brushes, you know, we think the camera is that brush, but it's not. It's actually the lighting and everything we do to manipulate the shot. The camera's just a sensor with buttons on it that just sucks in light and turns it into pixels. That's really...
The camera is the canvas, right? It's just the white
Yeah.
thing. It's the thing that's framing where you're gonna put your picture, and then everything else is up to you.
Yep, yeah. And the movies that win cinematography awards, it's because of the lighting.
I don't even know if I would count the camera as the canvas. The camera determines the frame.
Determines the frame. Yeah.
But for example,
it's the frame actually. It's the frame of the canvas.
the
right?
canvas is what's being captured by the camera. So for me, the canvas is this blue wall and this green wall.
Yeah, the camera's the tubes of paint. It's not the paintbrush. The light is the paintbrush. The camera's the tubes of paint. I mean, sure, you can buy different qualities of paint, you know, to give you different aesthetic quality. But, you know, at the end of the day, a blue's a blue, a red's a red, and so on. But it's really the brush that gives it the texture, and it's the artist that gives it the emotion.
And there are, I mean, as technology advances, for example, autofocus gets better, theoretically. Cameras can shoot at higher ISO levels. So certain things that were true in the past might be less true now. For example, in the past, if somebody used autofocus, they were frowned upon. I, most of the time, use manual focus because, for example, right now, this lens it's a cine lens. There is no autofocus. So I had to tweak it to get it in focus. But there are definitely situations where I really wish I had autofocus. I wouldn't look down on anybody who uses autofocus if they have to. Same thing with higher ISO levels. Currently, most cameras, the color starts to really degrade the higher you go up in ISO levels. If we get at the point where cameras can retain that color information, then it just becomes a better tool in that arsenal. You know what I mean? Like, we can't necessarily use the standards we used 20 years ago to the standards, you know, the current situation today. Do you follow what I'm saying? Thomas, you and I were talking about that the other day. How, for example, Sony can shoot at like a base ISO 1600, but the color looks like garbage to us, to me anyway.
Yeah.
And if it was at a lower ISO, it would shoot better color. Maybe in 5 years, in 2 years, that'll change, and at that point, then I would change my mindset on the issue. But for now, like, I'm shooting at ISO 400 because I think it's better color at the lower ISO levels. If I was using a dual ISO camera, then sure, maybe I'd be at 2500. But
But even with dual ISO, there's still sacrifices.
yes,
You know, I mean, it's not an absolutely perfect solution. And, you know, it's great that we have the ability to increase ISO, but it's never meant to be the norm.
Yeah,
It's meant
you still
be
need
the
to light.
exception. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because a camera can shoot at ISO like 25,000, you know, or whatever, doesn't mean it should always do it. You know, you should always try to light if you can. You're going to get better color, you're going to get better emotion, you're going to get better feeling from the shot instead of just a dull, lifeless, colorless looking shot. Sure, it may have noise, but noise is not the only criteria of quality.
no.
Yeah, and then you start denoising, saturating the image, pushing things here and there, and then you start getting to the barriers of 8-bit color space.
Yep. Which most of these cameras still have.
Yeah, for example, my t-shirt, this is a kind of a bright red, and I see on my return feed here, it's not so bright. It's okay. I'm also What's happening on my camera here is actually very interesting when we're talking about color, because we are normally used to shoot, edit, and monitor in Rec 709, which should change. It has to change because we are past that. There's a bunch of monitors that almost every single Mac that's being sold now, except the MacBook Air, all of them are wide color gamut displays. So we don't need Rec 709. Of course, it's still the most common, etc., and so on and so forth. But I think I would sacrifice a little bit of my color, like I am right now, to give whoever has the possibility of seeing more colors be able to see those. So what I'm doing, I'm recording in HLG, which is an HDR standard, and is in the Rex 2020 space. So actually, when I get this footage and put it on my computer, it will look different than now, because now I'm looking at a Rec 709 conversion that my Blackmagic is doing. So the saturation that you're seeing there is different than what my file will actually have. And I'm a very big fan of HDR and shooting in HDR, even if you're going to deliver in Rec 709 or standard dynamic range.
Well, you've done a fair number of tests on your own channel. You've released a few videos
I have.
kind of going into that.
Nice.
Some people love, some people don't. I made some mistakes when I was shooting Vlog, because Vlog from the Vericam goes from 0 to 100 IRE. Vlog L from the GH5 goes from 7.3, being the darkest, to 80 IRE. So 80 is where it clips. And you have to shoot, in my opinion, you have to shoot with a waveform on the GH5 if you want to shoot Vlog.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Because you will not see, and of course with zebras are going to help. You put your zebras to 75, and you're safe there on the highlights. And then skin tones are different IRE as well. It's not what we are used to. It's all completely crazy. And then if you put in HLG, then you're not having your waveforms in IRE anymore. You have them in nits.
Yes.
But nothing on the GH5 says that. And that were some of the tests that I was doing. And then suddenly you actually have your waveform going from 0 to 2000 nits. And the camera can capture 0 to 2000 nits. Right. You don't want your blacks on 0, definitely not. You want something between 0 and 10 nits. But I just love it. And now I'm going to do another video about Vlog, how to properly expose Vlog L for the GH5, nice. And how to properly expose HLG, because HLG, as an HDR standard, you don't see everything on the monitor of the GH5. So people are like, okay, so how can I expose this if I can't see it? Well, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that you can't expose. You still have the waveform that is giving the right information there for you.
Thomas and I both have done so many Vlog tests over the years. Just going back and forth, and there's so much misinformation online that Thomas frequently jumps on to correct people. And log is different for different cameras. Vlog L on the GH5 is different than log on a Sony. And for example, I use a Atomos Ninja Flame, so I can toggle on false color, which I use a lot to kind of look at different exposure levels. And if somebody doesn't have that tool, they might want a waveform. But yeah, the rules, they change based on what system you're using.
And people say, oh, you should have overexposed by 2 stops when you're shooting log. And I'm like, where are you getting that information from? And what you're using to say that you're overexposing. Because the measurement is different. You are in a log curve, you're not in a linear curve. So how are you measuring that, first of all?
Well, correct.
For example, I saw that, Thomas, you're using a gray card there. So if you would be doing a gray card on a Rec 709, it would be like, what, 50, right? If I'm not mistaken.
42.
Right at 0.
Oh,
exposed 0.
On your EV
right in the middle, straight in the middle.
So, and when people are like overexposing log, and I'm like, what? I think that you can expose to the right, expose to the highlights, get your highlights to the closest, and then your shadows are gonna be clean.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah, it's again that obsession with let's get rid of noise and then we have a beautiful image. And that's kind of where that whole TTR thing comes from.
Yeah.
It's and it's true, you know, if you expose to the right and then you grade down in post, you know, you're going to crush your noise and it's going to look cleaner, but you're sacrificing color and your range in the process. So it's like, it's again, that obsession with the whole high ISO crowd. You know, it's like, well, if we just get rid of the noise, we're going to have perfect, beautiful images. You know, from the noise perspective, that's true, but you sacrifice so many other things in the process. And,
then it's just flat.
Log formats are designed to be exposed in the middle. I mean, that's why Panasonic, you know, releases their specs saying, you know, 42 IRE. That's what you're supposed to use. They didn't make that up just to be cute. You know, that's where you get the optimal dynamic range. That's where you get the optimal color response from it, and it just makes sense to expose that way too. And the other issue of ETTR is you shoot one shot, you have one exposure level, you get your next shot, it's completely different. In post, when you're grading, you're all over the damn map trying to match all these different shots because you've got one shot that's a half stop over, then one that's a half stop under, then 2 stops over in the next shot, and it's a nightmare to deal with. And that's why you're supposed to use a gray card and expose in the middle.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting is, like, for example, the GH5 has 12 stops, and it's not 12 stops spread evenly.
No, it's,
when you get to the middle, it's like 6 up and 6 down.
No,
it's actually 8 and then 4,
correct.
Or is it 4 and then 8?
It's 8 below and 4 above.
It's 8 under and 4 over.
Yeah. So it's important to know
correct.
those things, so you know what you're getting there, right?
Well, how do you expose to the right when that's when you have the least amount of latitude on an 8:4 scale? I always like it even slightly underexposed. I've shot a fair...
which a lot of other pros have found to be true as well, like Shane Hurl, but
yep.
he suggests either a stop or 2/3 of a stop under for V-log.
And I've done a number of tests, and I've came to the same exact conclusions. I mean, I'm super pale, so I like myself a little underexposed to begin with. I mean, if there was sun coming through here, you see a rainbow coming out the other side of me. So I definitely I need to bring that down a bit. So we've talked about cameras a lot, but that's not the only gear we used. I mean, we've already mentioned lighting. Do you need the most expensive lighting in the world to make your footage look great? Thomas, what lighting are you using right now?
Just some cheap light kit online that has like CFL bulbs in it, and I'm not even diffusing it because I had to quick set this up.
Yeah.
I was dealing with my baby last night, so it's like I'm just gonna set up some lighting because some lighting's better than no lighting.
But you cared enough to set up a light anyway.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, it's true. Just like the cameras, you know, better lights will give you better results, and you know, some lights are have better color accuracy than others, and you know that all that stuff's important. But I would rather somebody buy a cheap light kit for $150 and use the damn thing versus just be like, screw it, and just, you know, wing it and not use it at all. You know, same thing with audio. I'd rather somebody use some kind of a shotgun mic. I don't care if it's a budget one, versus just saying screw it and just, you know, use the on-camera audio as is.
I would argue that's more important as far as a quote-unquote professional video, that, for example, using a lavalier or a shotgun versus the on-camera mic is going to make a far bigger impact on your video than the camera or the lighting or anything else. So crappy-looking footage with really good sounding audio is always going to do better than horrible audio and a beautiful image. Every time, I would say every single time. I mean,
one of my first cameras was the Canon XL1, and I look at it today and I want to vomit, you know, because it's standard definition, 4x3 interlaced, you know, but, you know, it had really good audio, and you can still enjoy that stuff today, even though to me it looks crappy, you know, to a lot of people they still enjoy it.
Well, even here, we're communicating via Skype, but we're separately recording ourselves with, you know, I've got a shotgun. Philippe, what are you using?
I'm using a Rode lav mic, one of those filmmaker kit.
Okay, and Thomas, you're using the NTG1, right?
Yeah, the Rode NTG1.
Exactly. So even for a podcast, we're using high-end mics, and we're using what we have available so that the audio is better. I mean, I happen to have a bunch of lights set up in here, just because I'm recording this in my studio, so I just have this.
It's easier to overkill.
I have this. Yeah, I can easily. I mean, I have 2 separate lights I have an airy LED and another LED with green filters to get the green back there. I've got another
Show off.
I've got another 1000 panel LED with the blue filter back there. I've got the light. I've got an LED 1000 here with the flag as my key, and then a smaller, it's a Dracast 500 Plus as a little bit of fill and hair light. Do I normally use 5 or 6 lights for an interview? No, but I mean, I figure this is my show. This is our show. Let's just do it right, and
and that effort matters.
yeah, I think it does.
Hair light for bald people is actually very, very crazy because it gives you like literally a white line behind the head.
I'll be there in a few years. This is going quickly.
I have super cheap stuff. I have $100 LED panel doing my key light here, and I have a diffuser, so it's a little soft on me. And then I have an IKEA light here, an IKEA LED with some IKEA little lights here on the table. And that's it.
I mean, you could be using a window with a bounce card, but either way, you're using available light and you're shaping it. The point is, you're not just plunking down a camera, and it's an $80,000 camera, so it doesn't matter what you do behind the scenes, just shoot it and go. I think that approach is like condescending to the entire craft of filmmaking.
And one thing that went the thought here on my framing was, okay, I'm gonna be on this side of the camera, and the background light will be in this side. That's how I was also deciding how I'm gonna light myself. So there was that thought about my key light is on the opposite side as my background light here. That is, so I have like some complementary way. There is a whole thing. I didn't do film school, so all of those things I either learned by watching or seeing people commenting about it. And then in the end, I think it looks okay. Considering that I don't have my hue lights this time, and I don't have hair light actually at all. So I'm pretty much together with my wall here. It's not possible to say how far away I am from the wall just because I don't have that hair light. But yeah, today I'm moving.
I'm only looking at the Skype cam right now. Once you send your actual files, we'll see. If the quality's not there, you may or may not be on the show again.
me.
Yeah, you might think mine looks horrible.
No, you sent me a screenshot. Yours looks really nice.
Yeah, I saw it. It looks very nice.
Of course.
It's very nice that this Get a Grip is keeping the standard. Everyone having very nice shots.
I had a couple of requirements for Thomas. We were all shooting 24p so we can sync. The audio is 48 kilohertz. Don't frame your face so tight because I don't want the lower third to cover your chin. But apart from that, I said, I don't care what camera you use, what lighting you use. If we all look completely different, that's great for me because we all have different styles and different amounts of time. Thomas has a kid. This isn't his full-time job anymore. He's got lots of things going on. Philippe, you're in the middle of a move. I have no excuse. I'm in my studio, so if I don't look good, it's totally my fault. Thomas, I know you're also shooting with manual lens, so your lighting might look great. We might find out in a few hours that you were out of focus the whole time. I hope that's not the case.
I sure hope not.
That's the one thing you cannot fix in post. Shows got to go out though, so if you're blurry, that's on you.
Just make me really tiny on the screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, we had something else that we were going to talk about as well, right?
Yeah.
What was it?
Well, the initial idea was to discuss, and I wanted to do this, as I mentioned in the intro, because there are people who aren't strictly video professionals, and I wanted them to walk away from every episode with some information that they can learn from and chat about and discuss. And I think what we chose was how to handle yourself in client meetings.
Yes.
Clients are not unique to video production by any means.
No, not at all.
And it's
Soft skills. It's all soft skills.
yeah. How would you define soft skills?
Okay, soft skills. Everything that you should learn from home, in a way. Your parents told you don't scream in public, maybe. When you're talking to older people than you, or more experienced people than you, it's sir and madam. You're polite. You're choosing carefully your words. You say thank you. I mean, those are the very minimum common sense soft skills that someone needs to have. Other soft skills then, on a more advanced level, you can go into giving and receiving feedback. When you're talking to people, you're not talking to robots, so people have feelings, and you're trying not to hurt anyone's feelings. You're in a professional set, and someone made a mistake. They shouldn't take it personally, obviously, but they might take personally. So giving and receiving feedback is very important. So you made a mistake. Depending on the person, you're not gonna say, John, I'm sorry, it's not exactly like this that you should have done. Saying like this, it's already okay for most people. But for other people, you might say, if they are too sensitive, you're gonna say, great, that was a great job. There are just a couple of things that we can do and it's gonna be fantastic. And I just told him that what he did was not what I wanted, and there's this other way that would be better. This is part of soft skills. Talking to clients also about you are the video professional. A client is coming to you because of your expertise. So part of your soft skills is knowing that you shouldn't be talking about them like if you would be talking to us here, full of technical terms and etc. You might want to ask them, have you seen something that you like, a video that you like, for example, and this is what you want to achieve or something like that, instead of saying, which focal length do you want? Do you want me to shoot in a full frame and a 35mm camera? Do you want me to shoot in film? Do you want a red? A lot of clients, they don't care which camera you're using. They don't care which NLE you're going to add it on.
Not only that, they don't even know what that means.
Yes.
I mean, I think of client meetings. Skills. I think of client meetings kind of like comedy. I'm not saying if you're on stage performing.
There's that.
But
patience.
When you tell a joke,
patience,
or you have a certain, like I have a kind of a dark sense of humor, and I like sacrilege, but that's not popular with everybody. So you kind of need to know your audience. And like, I've got tattoos, and so on my first meeting, I cover up my tattoos, and I'm just very, I tend to be polite in general. I was just raised that way, so that's not a hurdle for me. But you have to know your audience. If I'm making a music video for a rock band, I can be a little more loose with them than if it's a Fortune 500 company, where he makes more money in a day than I make in a year. It's a different type of situation. I'm definitely not going to swear in a client meeting ever, and I do swear. So that's just a different side of me. Most people swear, whether they admit it or not. But yes, you shouldn't be swearing at client meetings. You should avoid jargon and slang and potentially offensive things. I don't bring up religion or things like that. As you get to know somebody and they get to know you, I mean, that's how you start out. And some people can maintain that forever. I feel like I'm wearing a mask when I do that. So I start off that way, but as my relationship deepens with my clients, eventually I want to just be myself. It's like, for example, it's irrelevant to my ability to do my job that I have tattoos. It's irrelevant if I wear a button-up shirt or a short-sleeve shirt. None of these things have any impact on anything. Granted, if I'm shooting for a client and all their corporate execs are there, then I keep the button-up shirt on because I'm representing that client in a way. So
you fit in.
Yes, because I don't want to stand out. I'm behind the camera. The focus shouldn't be on me and who's that weirdo camera guy. And it should certainly never be, the director's really rude. That should never happen. So you're right. The soft skills are what I would argue.
If you're invisible, if people don't remember you,
yeah.
Like let's say a wedding, if they don't remember you, that's the best that you can do. They don't remember you and suddenly they have a video. They're like, whoa, where was the guy? You have to fit in. You have to fit in communications, on your video calls, on your calls. If you're talking to a client for the first time, don't get personal. Don't ask for their personal life. They will offer if they want. And if they offer that opening, and then you take, and they are letting you be a little bit more personal, but then also don't exaggerate. Everything has a little bit, there are boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. I said this in the previous episode. People get hired for their hard skills, if they can program, if they can do the actual job, and they get fired for their soft skills. They are not able to get along with others. They don't know how to communicate, and that's very important. People should understand that.
Yeah. Yeah, right now I work for a consulting company where we work with other clients all over the country. And these are corporate clients, and soft skills is something we talk about all the time. We have a lot of software developers, a lot of UX designers, and so on working for the company, and these are very talented people. But if the soft skills are not there, we might deliver the work for the client, but the client may choose to go with somebody else in the future because they didn't feel like the working relationship was really there. There was too much friction, and so on. So the soft skills are very important, and it's really important to keep in mind what we do. It doesn't matter if it's software development like I'm doing now, or graphic design, or video production. This is all commercial art. I mean, we do this stuff to help somebody or something make money.
Yes.
We're trying to sell a product, a person, or a thing, or a place, or whatever. And it's not about us. And I used to teach at a college for 4 years. I taught graphic design and video production courses. And, this is something I used to try to tell my students all the time. It's like, you're a commercial artist. You're not a fine artist. I know I like to call filmmaking a fine art, and, in a way it is, but it's a commercial fine art. And everything we do, it's for somebody else's benefit, not necessarily for our own. And obviously there are indie filmmakers out there that can have the stick up their butt attitude and be like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do whatever I want. That's fine. Go ahead and do that. But as soon as you need to start working with other human beings to make them happy, to make their products really shine and to sell and so on, then you need to develop those skills, and you need to get rid of that attitude that this is all about what I'm making. How dare you tell me to change this? That's crap. We've all been there before, but at the end of the day, it is about the client and what they want, and you need to learn to communicate with them and to deliver what they want as well, because at the end of the day, it's their baby. You're helping their vision become a reality, but it's their product. It's their company.
Yeah, when I make a video for a client, it's not my name that shows up at the end. Nobody who watches the video has any idea I ever touched it, which sucks. Mm-hmm. But the video is not about me; it's about my client. If anybody watches a video I did for any client of mine, and they leave thinking about me, then I've not done my job properly. The whole point is for them to think about that client's product or service or whatever it is they offer. So I don't understand when you're watching a client video produced by a fellow producer and you see their name at the end of the screen. Now, there are times where the client might insist that your name's there, and that's a different story. That's, I was actually just speaking with somebody last week where they mentioned I would do a project for them and that I would want to make sure credit is given where, so in that case, my name would be at the end. That's cool, finally. It's nice to have a little public credit for what I do, aside from what I throw up on my website. Where I think the only visitor is me. It's not about my ego. It's about the client, and it shouldn't be about you during the shoot. I have a certain way I want to do projects, and I have a certain way that I would like to approach projects that I haven't been able to achieve yet. It's just, we talked about this a bit in the last episode where, I can do this for you and it'll be solid, it'll be good, and I'll stand by it, and I know you'll like it. I'd rather do this, but it's a little bit more artistic and risky. Mm-hmm. So it's just, how do you get somebody to that next level? But in any event, it's all in the service of what I think is best for that client. It's not...
Absolutely.
It's not my resume. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And there's a right way to communicate, your vision to a client, and then there's a wrong way. If you start beating a client over the head and say, hey, idiot, this is stupid, this is going to look like crap, you can't do it this way, we're going to do it this way because I said so, you're
going to lose the client.
Friction. Yeah, you're going to lose a client, you're creating friction, you're creating bad, karma and vibe in the project. But if you try to, communicate with the client that there could be an alternative way, don't even, necessarily say it's better, but just say, this might get a little bit better response from people if we kind of show it this way. And you make it feel like they're part of that process of coming up with that creativity and making a better product. They're going to feel better about you, they're going to feel better about their project, and they're going to feel involved in that project. And they're not going to feel like you're some arrogant a-hole that just flex their muscle on this project. And it's important to learn those communication skills. Mm-hmm. And one of the one of my favorite classes I had in film school was a business communication class where you kind of learn some of that stuff, where it's like, it's not just about you. And, what we do is customer service. We think of ourselves as artists, but it's also customer service, it's sales, it's a lot of other things. And, you need to build that rapport with clients and learn how to communicate with them. And if you think the decision they're making is just horrible garbage, there's a good chance it probably is. I've been there enough myself where it probably is horrible garbage what they're suggesting. But learn to figure out a way to get them involved and to go the better direction, to go down the better path, so they feel involved and part of the process, and they feel like they contributed to making it even better than what their original vision was.
Yes, because they hired you, they chose you over whoever else, partly because they trust you. They have a certain amount of confidence in you. And so if they make a horrible decision and you just go along with it, and it's going to ruin the project, if you don't say something, you're not doing your job. You might not have the power. They might override your decision at every turn, and it might end up being a horrible video when it's out of your hands. That happens, I think, to everyone. Sometimes you just have bad clients. You just have really they make
and there are several types of
in there.
Yeah, and there are several types of clients, right? I mean, if I talk about marketing teams, I tend to see marketing teams in two separate groups. The marketing team that knows exactly what they want, how they want it, and they just want you to execute, and you don't really, and you have to be able to understand and identify that's that type of marketing team that you're dealing with. So you're not giving too much input because they are not interested. And then there's the marketing team that is like, we have this new campaign, but we actually don't know how we're going to approach that. And then is when you can give a lot of input, right?
Yeah.
In my case, for example, my work is not stellar. It's not great. I know that. Every time that I finish something, I'm like, this looks like it looks awful. I don't like it. But you know what? My repeating customers, I swear to you, they are not coming to me 100% because of what I did, but how I behave with them, how I communicate with them, how clear I am on how everything's gonna go. And I think a lot of them, they stay with me because of who I am and not necessarily the end result. It might not be the best, but the soft skills is definitely something that's keeping some of my clients.
I've seen a fair amount of your work lately, and I think your criticism of your own work is as harsh as mine is of my own work or Thomas's of his. Like, I'll watch something. I mean, I watch my stuff repeatedly because I like to learn from my own mistakes or things I like to approach.
Because you like to torture yourself.
I do, but I normally, unless it's the case of the bad clients who overrode every decision, I like to watch what I produced many times before I deliver it and after I deliver it. And at first, what am I trying to say? I don't deliver a project that I know I'm going to press play on and hate it at the next viewing. So I always like what I produce at the time. But then a couple hours or a couple days later, I'm like, because I'm always wanting to do the next thing. It doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
It's because we are critiquing our own work. We're critiquing stuff the client's never going to critique. You know what I mean? If your headroom you wanted an inch or more, they're never going to notice that. If you wanted more detail
on version 1, they already know if they're gonna like your stuff, and you know that on version 1 you're still far. For example, actually talking about version 1, I never, ever give a rough cut to a customer. Never. Like if they did a green screen, I will key the green screen. Yes. I will do a good cut, a good first cut, but I will never give them a rough cut because there are a lot of customers they don't have the vision of where that thing is gonna go. So I already try as much as possible to get there, and then I have another trick. I leave some very obvious stuff.
Yes, I was gonna say
be corrected.
There are a couple different schools of thought there. And the one is you always leave one thing a little messed up on purpose because that's what the client will zero in on, and then they won't nitpick a bunch of stuff that you think
and
is
then it becomes final.
Yes, right.
Really, if you do a perfect cut, if you do a perfect cut, they need to feel involved. They will find something to comment.
And the thing that they'll pick out is something that was perfect or was really good. And so if you leave a couple things a little bit rough edge because you know it's a version 1, you don't deliver garbage to them on your rough cut.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're gonna, if it's a green screen, In this case, if it was green, yeah, I would put in the background because they can't imagine that. And if they start thinking like, oh, I can't really picture it, this is what the background's going to be, they're instantly going to start thinking of other things that don't need to be changed. So yes, Thomas, you're right. You are steering them towards a proper course where hopefully you're only doing a version 2. Sometimes I'm at version 12, and that's when you start to go insane. But
yes,
and that it also depends. If your client is directly who you're dealing with, that's one thing. But oftentimes your client has to share it with his or her boss. Then they separately have a marketing team, and then they have separately have a branding team. And there's so many people down the pipeline, and they're not communicating the same information.
That's my reality.
Yeah, and that's where sometimes this whole revision process and dealing with clients can be maddening. And you might not actually be angry with your actual contact. They might be the greatest person ever, and they might be as equally frustrated with their boss or their chain of command. And oftentimes I have to say there are people making decisions that have no reason, no right to be making a decision in this process. I know we've all dealt with that. And that's
because everyone wants to voice something, right?
Yeah. And this is something that's also not just unique to filmmaking or video production. It's true of everything. It's true in software development. If you put something together and show it to the client and it's got all these holes and things are half finished, they're really going to focus on that stuff that's broken, or if there's bugs in it. Same thing in graphic design. If you or interface design for a mobile app, if you purposely leave certain things out, they're going to pinpoint on that stuff. And the same is true, like you said, in video. If you leave that garbage in there, that becomes a focal point for the client's eye and their attention. And they're going to look at that, and that's all they're going to think about. It's like, well, it's all good, but what about this? And you could send them like notes ahead of time. Hey, I'm sending you this rough cut. Just be aware this shot is not finished. It's still the green screen, blah, blah, blah. They will still focus on that one thing.
Yes.
Even though you send them an email and notes and saying, please ignore this and this and this shot, they will still focus on it. It looks good, but why is this like this? So it's really important to give them something polished to look at. And there's a tendency to want to kind of show as you go along. And that's true, so you're going in the right direction sometimes. But you're also setting yourself and the client up for a lot of hurt by doing that. Show them something polished. Let them refine it from that point on. That's definitely something I agree with.
I do have a client so they're another production company. So the videos I work for are actually their client. So they're sort of a chain of command. But they'll give me, say, a 3-minute video. They'll want me to send a 30-second sample to send their client before I spend a couple days making the whole video. And there is a logic to that. And most of the time that works out well because I don't want to put 3 days of work into completely the wrong direction. So there is a benefit sometimes in giving them a little bit of a sample. If there's not really a storyboard or the vision isn't totally locked down, cemented. That way you can be like, is this kind of the right direction? Yes? Okay, then I keep going.
Yeah.
But it can also go kind of nuts because you might do that and then they keep tweaking and then weeks in you're still only on that sample and you're never allowed to actually work on the project. So that's not the fault of my client ever, but it can lead to problems down the line.
Which leads me to something that we discussed in the other episode, which is, are you charging per hour or for the projects? Because I prefer to charge for the project and I know how much time I'm going to need. And the project should have a price, not your hour. Because if you're efficient, then you're being punished by being efficient. But then if you're working in a customer that you know that your 10-hour project that you could deliver will become a 24-hour or 30-hour project, then that's the moment that for that client you're wanting to give, let's say, maybe a standard price to deliver the product up to a certain amount of revisions, what we said before, and then after that you're paying per hour.
Well,
because then forces them to get their thoughts together all at once and work.
Well, you've been burned by that before. We've all been, I think, burned by that. But because revisions is oftentimes where we can kind of get the most because you've done your work, and even if I'm efficient and I technically could finish early, I oftentimes put in extra time over what I budgeted in my head anyway, just because I felt better about doing it. A few things I wanted to tweak. I'd always rather deliver something I'm proud of. I don't want to deliver anything I felt like I phoned in. I mean, why? Nobody hires me to phone this stuff in. But in revisions is where it can just go into this nightmare situation. And you're right, we talked about this before. If your contract, well, let me say it this way, even if your contract is very specific, the clients, they don't really read the contract. That can be a problem in and of itself. And if they don't read the contract, then they're suddenly surprised. And even if you send them an
And
email
upset.
ahead of time and say, okay, just a reminder, this, what you're asking is going to cost XYZ amount more to get what you want because whatever. And you can still run into problems. Because
Yes.
fundamentally, none of us want to, nor can we afford to bring on a lawyer. We don't ever want it to get to that. I've never needed to do that, of course. But it can just be really a tricky dance, the revision phase, no matter how meticulous you are when you come up with your contract.
Do you know something that's
Absolutely.
difficult to feel proud of? Is a client giving me a green screen recording in 1080i. That's
Crap.
it's so difficult. It's so
Yeah.
difficult. You studied VFX, right? So I'm pretty sure that you can pull a very good key, even out of a crappy 1080i. But
There's
that's
stuff
gonna
you
take
can
your
do.
time.
Oh, come on, Thomas.
That's gonna take your time.
Come on, Thomas, it's time for you to unload right now. Interlaced green screen footage in like, what, 8-bit? Like, yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to see it ever again. I really don't. And
I mean,
there's really no
interlaced
excuse
is from the devil.
Yeah. I mean, there are things you can do to kind of repair it a little bit, but still.
Yeah,
I
you can
mean,
rub Vaseline on the lens. That's about all you can do.
No, I mean, there's a way we can kind of fix the way the chroma samples line up and so on, and it
I would
helps
love
a
to
little bit.
learn.
And I've been there before, and it's a nightmare. But yeah, I mean, you're talking a difference between it's one day to deal with it, and now suddenly it's 3 days to deal with it because it's extra crap you got to do, and it's just more difficult to deal with. And,
Well, if I shoot green screen with a progressive camera, 1080, and everything is well lit, I actually can do everything with the built-in keyer from Final Cut without any problems. For this one specifically, I had to buy the Hawaii keyer, which is very good, and that one was giving me a secondary keyer where I was using on the face because of hair and glasses and stuff. But further than that, this footage was so difficult that I was actually having to crop specific parts of the image and applying the keyer there and with the secondary keyer because that's the way, for example, there was a table that was very reflective and it was reflecting the green screen. So I used the secondary keyer to put a matte there
Yep.
and I loved it. I loved that there was all of that option in the Hawaii. It was definitely an excellent investment, $100, totally paid off. But
it's a
it was a
good
lot
gear,
more
really is.
work to do it. Work that I was not expecting to do.
Yeah.
And the render time is much longer.
Yeah.
And is that something you should eat the cost on, or is that something that should be passed on?
In this case, I work per hour. In this case,
Yeah.
I'm charging per hour. So however many hours that I was working, I was getting paid. No problem there.
Because there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, you shouldn't have to sacrifice the extra time, and the client, for nothing.
Yeah.
The client should definitely have to pay for that in that situation.
Yeah, one way or another.
That's also where it's important to set expectations, both
Yeah.
in the initial meeting and with your ongoing communication. I mean, if they send you something like that, you can, you could do your best with it, or you can tell them like, given the source material, don't expect a miracle. You might be able to deliver
Yeah.
something that looks amazing, but I've gotten footage from clients still in 2018 that's like 540 interlaced footage, and they just want me to throw it together, and they're like, "Can you make this look better?"
Or giving you a vertical one, can you make it wide?
Oh my God.
Vertical,
Please don't go
vertical
there.
video is an abomination in most cases.
Yes.
It's unacceptable. I remember the first.
We're not even allowed to discuss that, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you're working with kiosks. I'm pretty sure that you had to
Well, okay, there are
to make videos
there-
for a vertical
Yes,
delivery.
there are exceptions. There are definitely
Very specific
uses
delivery,
for it,
right?
but
yes. If
It is definitely the exception and not the norm.
Yes.
I just there have been we're jumping around a little bit here, but vertical video is It's atrocious. I mean, I understand you've got your phones and people are too lazy to rotate it sideways.
It's too much work, right?
It's so hard to, because being able to watch a movie like this is so inconvenient to begin with. But we have peripheral vision, most of us. We see the world and landscape. We don't.
Most of us.
Well, we don't see it this way. We don't see the way, the world the way a horse does, literally with blinders on.
I think some people do that. I think some people are using the thing that the horse has here, and they see the world this way. They must say that.
As a
way.
metaphor for their worldview, absolutely, yes. But that's a whole other. I might have to start another show to go on that rant. We'll leave that out.
Yeah.
We'll leave that out of Get a Grip. That would be an angrier show for sure. Yeah. So.
Let's change the subject. We don't need to talk about vertical video.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I was about to go full on Lewis Black here, but
about the whole green screen thing. You have a lot of guts taking green screen footage from a client. I would never want to do that. That's the one thing I will not compromise on, because it's not even just about the format it was shot in. The camera can make a huge difference. How it was lit can make a huge difference. The kind of material that was used can make a huge difference. And when you let the client do it, unless they know absolutely what the hell they're doing,
this client is a production company. Yeah, this client is a production company, but they're they're a global production company.
But that doesn't mean they understand.
Yeah, there are some decisions
a visual
that
effects
I
the way
wouldn't
it
make.
should be understood. It's a really specialized field, and there's a lot of people that can shoot green screen. There's a lot of people that can slap a keyer on it, but to do it the right way, this is something I am just very meticulously anal about.
Well,
and
not just green screens, because I've had a handful of clients come to me where they were like, well, we thought we'd shoot this in-house. So we saved up, we bought a little Canon DSLR and a couple lights, and we shot it, and it looks fucking awful. So we know you can't even fix this. Although sometimes they do send it, and in the industry we call that polishing turds. Because we know it's going to be a turd no matter what you do. It's just a little more sparkly. But then they hire me because they ruined it. They don't know what they're doing. They realize I could buy the best camera in the world, and it's not going to be the best footage in the world because we don't know how to use it. And that's why they hire us. And so I then reshoot what they shot, but I do it professionally. And not only are they out the money that they're paying me, they're out the money they spent investing in the camera and the gear.
Yep.
And it's one thing, I understand that the trend lately is a lot of bigger companies are moving production in-house. That's fine, but bigger companies can afford to bring on trained video professionals to do this sort of thing. That's if it's the financially sound thing to do, I get that. I do a lot of work for a company, and they have so much work they need people in-house, and so oftentimes they will bring somebody on who knows what they're doing, or who at least is new to it but is eager to learn how to do it correctly, which is also valid because we all need to start somewhere. But
yeah, this green screen that I receive, I wouldn't make some choices that they make. For example, the type of camera they use is literally a very expensive webcam. And the way, and most of the green screens are not literally lit. Some of them they have a green floodlight that gives you this super bright green right in the middle, and everything else is like a different shade of green. But this one is not too bad. I got used to that. And I may be thinking right now it's kind of courageous to get that, but to be honest, my name is not in the end. They're paying me. It's that customer that pays the bills, right? Now, I got another customer once that was what Gabe just said. The customer got a camera themselves. They bought a green screen themselves, probably on Amazon or something like that. They put one of those white plastic party chairs that you have out in the summer or something like that.
Oh my God.
Put the kids to sit in it. Didn't use any lighting.
Surface chairs?
Yes. That disappear once you start keying. And seriously, when I saw that footage, and it was on-camera microphone, seriously, it was a nightmare. And the background, why did you shoot green screen? I asked her. and said, "Oh, because I want the children's drawings to be the background." Maybe an okay idea for what she was doing. It was definitely part of what they were doing, but it was not a marketing person, not a video person, not a graphics person making all of those choices, all those creative choices about the looks and everything else. And in the end, I think it hurts their business. Wow, okay. I mean, it looks like that we had some very interesting conversation. I think a lot of people are going to take a lot out of the client conversation, mainly soft skills, how to communicate. Thomas had so many nice insights there. Coming from someone that's not only working with video production, but you deal with clients, you're doing consulting, you're dealing with a team of people that, for example, you know that you're not going to put that guy that's the antisocial guy in a client meeting. That guy is going to be coding there for you, but he's not going to go into the client meeting because soft skills are important and you don't want necessarily that thing to happen, right? I think this is useful for everyone, not only video production, everyone that deals with any type of client. And that could be the guy in the coffee shop selling coffee.
Yes. I used to be the guy at the coffee shop selling coffee for a long time. And you generally, I can't say this never happened, but you generally, as a rule, don't want to scream at your customers. You know?
Or make them feel stupid or uninformed.
Even if they are.
That's the worst thing you can do. Yeah, even if they are. They can be the dumbest a-hole in the world, but don't make them think that.
Well,
you never ever want your client to feel like they don't understand or they're clueless or just don't get it, because that's a negative feeling for them, and they're not going to feel good about that.
Yeah, I don't, as a rule, as I meet people, as I talk to people, I don't want them to walk away from me feeling badly about themselves. And that goes back to just what Philippe was saying early on. That's the soft skills. That's just what you learn in the home. That's how you were raised. It's never served me well to be rude to people. It doesn't mean I never have. Obviously, I regret those times. I mean, I'm not a perfect person, but...
You're pretty rude.
No one is. No one is perfect.
I can't always respond. Like I said, Thomas and I text all day long about video, and sometimes it's like, I'm working, I've got 10 hours straight of editing ahead of me, and I can see messages coming through, ding, 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 and I'm like, Thomas, shut the f*** up. I just need to work for now, and I do the same thing to him.
I was probably going off on a rant on something online or something.
Yeah.
No, for me, I don't expect people to reply immediately. I might send the message, and I'm totally fine that they're going to reply a day later, because I understand that everyone is busy, and because I do that, I expect them to also not expect me to reply immediately. But I do always reply.
Yeah, I almost always
except
reply.
on Facebook.
Yep.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and you're, 6 hours ahead of me? 8?
It's 7.
7 hours ahead of me. So most of the time when I'm messaging you, you're sound asleep. I don't expect you to wake up and respond just because Gabe is messaging you. I'm hoping your phone is off when you're asleep and I'm not waking you up, and you get back to me when you can. But that just happens to be when I'm awake. So
I'm on Do Not Disturb from 10 p.m. until 7 a.m.
I wish I could do that. I've gotten better over the years at not necessarily, like if a client emails me at 8 o'clock at night, I'm not necessarily going to write back to you at 8 o'clock at night anymore, because then you just expect me to be serving you 24/7.
Yeah.
I'll read it, and if there's something I need to respond to, I might stay up and do the work. But
I know one of the next subjects for an episode.
Yeah.
Work-life balance.
I don't know what that is. I mean,
that's why I want to talk about it.
I've been working 50 to 70 hour weeks, no shit, for the last month. And
that's not good, man.
And even when
that's
my client tells me to take a day off, it's literally impossible because they requested work that requires that day to work on it.
Please get this update done.
Yeah. So I do the best I can. They're doing the best they can. It's just, it is the way it is. I could work 50, 60, 70 hours a week for a few more years, but I definitely...
And then you drop dead.
In my 20s, I would literally go 1 or 2 days without sleeping a minute, and I'd be okay. At least in my head, I was okay. Now I can't do that. I need I need a good 5-6 hours of sleep, or I really start to lose
8.
8? No, that's bullshit. I lose my shit if I'm less.
Thomas is making a face like I have a baby. I don't know what that is.
You know what? I never got into creative fields because I wanted to work 9 to 5. It's just not anything I ever considered a reality in my life. You know, it is what it is. I mean, I do it because I love it. I love everything I do, the wide range of different things I do, and if I have to put in the extra time, whatever. It's my
that's
passion,
why
it's my
work-life
life.
balance is such an important subject, because I also love what I do, but I know how work affects personal life. I know how personal life affects work, and I've gone through having problems at home because I was working too much, for example. And it's not because the person is angry that you're working too much. It's actually because your mindset changes. Because then it's difficult for you to disconnect from work if you're so many hours into it. Suddenly you just want to sleep, and then you sleep, and then you work again, and then you sleep, and then you work again. I love what I do, but I also want to go to Greece for vacations and just do nothing. I want to be able to go out and meet my friends and enjoy a conversation where I'm not going to be talking about work. Those are the things that are important, and because I will be happy when I'm doing that, I will bring more positive energy into my work. But that lists me, because I know I need that.
Yeah, two things for me. One is I don't want to be asked on a Friday night to do something on a Saturday. I make exceptions.
Yes.
If I choose on my own to work on a Saturday because I want to get ahead of the project, that's totally different than being forced. Because then I can't make any other plans. And most of my clients know me pretty well. They know I live and breathe video. It's just, I'm obsessed with it. I can't escape it even when I try. So they know I'm going to be working even if I say I'm not. And they sometimes take advantage of it. But being forced to work over the weekend, okay, if I screwed something up, I'm going to cover it. I'll fix it on the weekend. That's fine. Most of the time, it's not my screw up. So don't ask me to, because if you guys are at home, whoever you are, my clients, not working, I'm going to kind of be pissed that I'm the only one working over the weekend. That's just where it is. I'm a professional. I love what I do, but I'm also a human being. And now, recently turning 42, I am finally slowly, literally a minute at a time, giving myself permission to take a minute off, because I realize I say the word video like 50 million times a day because it's all I'm doing, video. I need a little time to unplug. Like if I could just have one day where I don't talk about editing or cameras or anything. The irony is my one day off, I'm recording this show. So it's still video, but you're right, Philippe. I'm glad we brought up work-life balance, because that's important for everyone.
It is important. It's very important.
Well, and again, you're a dad now, so you need it more than you've ever needed it.
Yeah, that's definitely changed my perspective a little bit. Although I'm still a workaholic, I love everything I do, very career orientated. So, I value work-life balance a lot more than I used to, but I'm still willing to go that little extra mile if I need to.
But then it's your choice, right? You're not being forced into that situation. Like Gabe said, if he wants to work on a Saturday to be ahead of things, that's his prerogative. There were times that I was in the office for 14 hours every day in a week, and I didn't have a choice because I was alone, and there was no one to help me, and there were deadlines. I literally had no choice. Now, I'm so wrong. I just said something very wrong. Everything is a choice. I could have said to my boss, it's impossible. I cannot do that. I'm being paid for 8 hours. I don't want to f*** up my personal life. But I chose the easy one, which was to just continue doing what I was doing. Everything in life is a choice. I firmly believe in that. And I just don't love that I was doing 14 hours a day for a very long time. And
I lose.
If I have a shoot that I need to do, I'll do it. But I know that's not going to be every day.
With that little sleep at this age, I'm not old, but I'm old enough to know myself well. I don't keep my cool as well. I start to make bad decisions. And I don't want to make bad decisions on a client project. I wouldn't want to make bad decisions on even this show. So, and again, maybe people will feel that the whole show is a bad decision. F them. But I'm just saying, That's fine. We need one thumbs down. I think Thomas is really close to running out of card space, so I think we should wrap this up. That also means we're approaching the same length as our first episode, and I wanted to keep this a little tighter.
I hope you're gonna cut stuff out of this one.
You'll probably cut all my stuff out.
Yeah, there will be no. It's just gonna be me and Philippe this episode. So, Thomas, thanks for coming on. It was. I'm really.
Thank you for inviting me.
I really appreciate you
It's been
not only making the time, but like taking time to set things up and our very specific frame rate and audio and lighting requirements. That means a lot.
Thomas, very nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's nice meeting you guys. Crap load of fun. I love doing this. This is awesome. I could talk about video and film all day long, as Gabe knows, because I do. I send him like 100 messages a day. I'm on forums all the time, just constantly talking about this stuff. I basically spend any free minute I have researching, all the stuff. I study image processing because I'm a geek, and that's the part of visual effects I love, is making everything pixel perfect. And this is just my passion. Even though I don't get to do it as much as I used to, I'm still madly in love with video in all forms. So thank you for inviting me. It was awesome.
Well, you're coming back for sure. We'll need to have an episode with your mystery project.
Yes.
As soon as you get that finishing up, I'm really excited for that episode. And Philippe, as always, you're not a guest anymore, so I imagine. Oh,
Be promoted.
I should have mentioned this at the outset, but Sam couldn't join us today because he's out helping a friend shoot a short, which is the best excuse ever to miss an episode, because that's what this show is all about. So Sam
has been missed.
Sam, I'm sorry you couldn't be on this episode. We'll do everything we can to make sure our schedules coincide so you can be on the next one. But anyway, there's that. Hopefully the show is at least as enjoyable as the first one without Sam. Hopefully, if I miss an episode, the ratings don't go way up, because then I'll feel like shit. But we'll find out. So, everyone, Philippe, Thomas, have a good day, and audience, goodbye.